I use a lot of ketchup and was always told that you have to refrigerate it, but that's not actually true. Turns out there's a lot of foods we've been told you have to throw in the fridge that you really don't have to. Since the mid-20th century, every modern home has had some type of refrigerator. We've all been taught that keeping food cold makes it last longer. Sure, that works for leftovers, dairy products, or things that you don't want to rot, but not every food you've been taught has to go in the fridge. And I got back in the Google machine and found out these foods that you really don't absolutely have to store in the fridge. Number 1, aged cheese. Hard aged cheese should never be stored in the refrigerator. Now you might be thinking it's a dairy product and dairy goes in the fridge, but aged cheese will get rock hard if you chill it down. Aged cheese has already been cured for around 6 months and can last a while longer simply stored in your dark pantry. Potatoes. Storing raw, unpeeled potatoes in the fridge will cause the starch inside to be turned into a sugar at a fast rate, leaving you with, well, a musky mess. But if you've already peeled or baked them, that's a different story. Chocolate hazelnut spread, or commonly known as Nutella, and we probably don't want to get sued here by saying that, but it's still a succulent spread that many refrigerate, even though they tell you not to do so on the label. The sugar in the spread is high fat in the hazelnuts and will harden in the cold, and you'll be left with a rock-hard substance. And bacteria can't break it down due to high sugar content. So good luck trying to scoop that Nutella out when it's pretty much a rock-hard mess on the bottom of that container. Onions. Whole unpeeled onions should not be stored in the fridge. Keep them wrapped up in their protective skin and in a container or a bag with a ventilated top or bottom. Once the cold hits those little tear jerkers, the starch turns to sugars and the onion will liquefy. Coffee. Now coffee never lasts long enough in my apartment to go bad, but it's never recommended to store coffee or the beans in the fridge or freezer. The cold will compromise the flavor and the scent. I mean, do you see people at Starbucks freezing their coffee? No. Honey. Now when honey's refrigerated, it crystallizes and turns into a solid. Experts say to store it in the pantry away from extreme temperatures. Oh, and by the way, did you know that most honey does not have an expiration date? Me neither. I learn things in these web shows. Butter. Hey, move over butter, but butter that's never been refrigerated can continue to do so. Room temperature butter is easier to use and spread on your bread. You only need to store it in a cool, dry place, and that's thanks to all that pasteurization and salt. So a covered butter dish on the counter, it's just fine as long as you use it fairly quickly. Now if it takes you forever to use a stick or you live in a hot and humid climate, the fridge will be your better choice. Melons. Now melons are sweetest and juiciest when stored at room temperature, and that's certified with USDA research. Honeydew, watermelons, cantaloupes lose their antioxidants when the temperature is lowered. But if you've already cut the fruit, too bad, you've broken the seal. And the only way to save the extras is in the fridge for up to 3 days. Basil. Fresh basil will wilt and turn brown fast if refrigerated. Now you can keep basil fresh longer by putting the stems in water like you would a bouquet of flowers. It might not look beautiful, but the taste certainly will be. Olive oil. Not the woman on Popeye, and yes, I just dated myself by saying that. Refrigerating olive oil causes condensation to occur that will actually water down the oil and diminish the taste. It will also cause the oil to turn thick and murky. Who wants that, right? Now, if you want to store it somewhere, store it in a dark cabinet and it should last for about a year. Pickles. I love pickles, and the canning process of pickles means a jar can last forever outside of the fridge. The high amount of salt and vinegar in the jar kills off harmful germs and microbes. I remember local bars back home to sell pickles and just kept the jars behind the bar next to the booze, and well, people just would dunk their hand on it and grab them. Totally sanitary, right? Now, a jar of pickles that was already purchased in the refrigeration section of the store, though, you still gotta put it in the fridge. But some people really do still like that cold pickle flavor on their sandwich. Vinegar. And speaking of vinegar, if pickles don't need to be in the fridge, well, neither does vinegar. Logical, right? Unless you're using absolutely pure vinegar, which is a thing. It's also more expensive and harder to find. Berries. Now, if you're going to use those berries after a few days of purchase, you can keep them out of the fridge or freezer. They're just begging to lose their firmness and texture after exposed to the cold for long periods of time. It's also best not to wash berries until needed because the moisture will cause them to grow mold. Alright, so we've learned that cold berries get mushy. Ketchup. Now, the last time you sat down to dinner at a diner, was the ketchup cold? Probably not. It was either in a bottle on the table or in a million of those little packets that we all keep. Well, because ketchup is so acidic, it's hard for the bacteria to grow, so it takes a long time to go bad. Now, if the outside temperature is too high, though, the ketchup will turn watery. Or if a diner just keeps filling those jugs over and over without taking the old stuff out, that'll make it watery too. Mustard. And the same rules for ketchup apply to mustard. The high acid content makes it a great shelf preserver. I use tons of ketchup and mustard every day, so clearly for me it's gotta act as a life preserver. Soy sauce. The same for soy sauce. A high acid and salt can help preserve it for a long time. The manufacturer doesn't suggest refrigerating it. Read the label. All you gotta do is store it in a cool place. Stone fruits. That's what we all call peaches, nectarines, plums, and apricots, right? Stone fruits, they don't need to be refrigerated though, if they're gonna be used soon after purchase. Now once the fruits are exposed to temperatures below 50, the ripening process stops. So if they are picked too early, the taste won't be as pleasant, but they will turn mushy in the cold, and well, that's no fun. Here's another hit, tomatoes. Now scientific studies prove that refrigerating tomatoes destroys the fruit's flavor enhancing cells. The count of the window is still good enough if they're not quite bright enough. Aw, nuts. Now the cold temperatures of your fridge will cause the nuts to absorb the smells and flavor of other foods next to it. While it might be a cool experiment, it's like a nut flavor infusion. Bread. Want stale bread? Store it in the fridge. Cold is absolutely terrible for bread. Keep it in the fridge over a week and you're bound to have a moldy science experiment. But here's a tip, you can freeze bread. Put it in the freezer and then reheat it if you can't use it all at once. I do that all the time. Just remember though, those cold temperatures will cause the bread to lose some of the flavor. Cereal. Okay, people really do store mass quantities of cereal in the fridge, but you may not want to do so. The cold and humidity in the fridge will cause the cereal to lose its crunch, just like it causes bread to lose its flavor. And the same deal for spices. You're better off putting them in a spice rack or in the wall in a cupboard. That cold humidity will lessen the smell, texture, and taste. What's the point of using a spice if you can't taste it? Ooh, cookies. But the cold, dry air of the fridge can cause cookies to dry out and harden, turning stale. The best storage for cookies without dairy is an airtight container at room temperature. Now, if it's full of other crazy toppings and things though, they might have to go in the fridge. Jam. Even once a jar of jam is open, it does not need to go in your refrigerator. Just put the lid back on and put it back in the cupboard. Think about that diner again when you sit down at the table and you got those little unopened little jelly tubs, right? Corn on the cob, another vegetable that will lose its flavor and texture thanks to the cold. Corn on the cob is best consumed within days of purchase. Putting it in the fridge causes it to lose its sweet, juicy flavor, and it also turns to mush. Well, maybe you're trying to make some cream corn and you really want the mush, so there you go. Put it in the fridge, it's the easy way to go. And that's it. There's a whole list of foods you didn't realize don't need to be stored in the fridge. Look, you handle food safety the way you want to. Don't sue me because you saw what I said here in the show. I found them on Google and maybe it works for you, maybe they don't. Everybody has their own ideas what to do with food in the kitchen. Some of you are better chefs than me, so I just found these for entertainment value only. But there's lots more fun facts right here on the Big Jersey Joe 50 YouTube channel, so click that like, subscribe button down below and tell your friends about the fun we have here each and every week. After all this food, I'm kind of hungry right now, so time for dinner. All right, Jersey here and your friends saying thanks so much and good luck with your food storage, and let me know if any tips work for you, and I'll see you next time, I hope.